and the Sudan. And we're talking to Dr. LMadu, who is an international lawyer. And Dr. Madu, before we had our first commercial break, we were talking about some of the problems in terms of the emergence of a, quote, new Africa. But as we indicated before that break, that there are still some problems on the continent of Africa. And I think one of the problems that you've identified that is of some real interest to you is the problem dealing with the Sudan. Let's talk about the Sudan. Why don't you give us some definition in terms of what the Sudan is and how it fits within the whole Africa question and that kind of information?
Well, actually, what people don't know is that the Sudan is the largest country in Africa in terms of area of land. It's a very huge country, made up into two different, should I say, ethnic groups. You have the Arabs in the north, who are Muslim, and you have the Christians in the south, who are also black. And that's part of the problem in the Sudan today. And, you know, since the Sudan gained its independence, you know, from the British and the Egyptians, you know, you had the Anglo-Egyptian condominium. The country basically has been having some problems. The first civil war in that country started about 1953. And it never ended until 1972, when the then president, Nimeri, signed agreement with the Anyanya guerrillas led by General Joseph Lagu, promising autonomy for Southern Sudan, which he implemented at the behest of Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia, who negotiated the agreement. But what happened is that in a few years later, the government of the Sudan went back on its word and decided to impose Islamic law on the whole country.
On the entire country?
On the entire country, absolutely. Nimeri tried to do that before he was overthrown. Then the new government that came in tried to turn it back. The new civilian government that came in as a result of Nimeri's overthrow, headed by Sadiq El-Mahdi, wanted to roll the law back. But he was overthrown himself by General Omar Bashir, and an Islamic law was, you know, enacted to impose this Sharia law all over the country. The man behind this is a man called Hassan Turabi, who is really the strong man of the government, even though he's not in power in the Sudan. So the Southern Sudanese took up arms under Colonel John Garang. Garang was educated in this country. He has a PhD from University of Iowa. So he started leading the rebellion and formed an army called the Sudanese People's Liberation Army to fight for autonomy, not independence. You know, autonomy.
For that particular section.
Exactly. Autonomy, and also to reject the imposition of Islamic law on the Christians in the south. And that's very important because most of the Christians in the south reject this Islamic law, which anyway, looking at it from the human points of view, from a human rights point of view, is wrong. You know, I think a country that is multinational, multicultural, multi-ethnic like the Sudan, supposed to, you know, be what you call a secular state.
Reflect that in its organization.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes, reflected in this composition, so that people can have the right to worship what they want to worship. You see, but in this case, they want to impose Islamic law, and that has been a problem since 1985, you know, when this conflict started again, and it's continuing, you know, up to as we speak. A lot of people are dying of hunger, starvation in Southern Sudan. You've seen a lot of the Sudanese Christians here, live in Nashville now. That's why they are here. You know, they are running away from that civil war and also all other attendant, you know, problems that the war has created. And not only that, from reliable information, including Amnesty International and Africa Watch, there is slavery still going on in the Southern Sudan. In fact, most of the Southern Sudanese, you know, members of the Liberation Army who are captured by the Northern Arab soldiers are taken as slaves. and even regular people are still being taken as slaves from in Sudan. The same thing
What's the market
for
for this new slave trade, Dr. Madu?
Well, it's in the Arab, in the Arab North. They take them to the Arab North. The same thing the Mauritanian government has been doing itself, just the slavery in Mauritania. So it's the same thing. And it's not, it would be nice to look at the conflict in the Sudan in isolation from the problems in Uganda, Eritrea, and Ethiopia. You see, the Ethiopian government really is the key financier. The Ethiopian and Ugandan governments are the key financiers of the problems in the Sudan. They are the key suppliers of arms and money to the Southern Sudanese rebels. Also, the United States, because they have an interest in destabilizing this Islamic government in the Sudan. At the same time, the Eritrean government also supports the Sudanese People's Liberation Army because it has problems with the Sudanese government. The Somali government, the same. See, so all these countries around the Sudan are participants in what is happening, in Sudan, in the Sudan.
They're trying to influence the policy within Sudan, all the surrounding countries.
Absolutely, all the surrounding countries. They are part and parcel of what is happening in the Southern Sudan. Not to say that the Southern Sudanese are fighting for the interests of these countries. No, is that their interests, in keeping the
local interest.
Exactly, in keeping the Islamic government in Khartoum in check, is helped by the Sudanese People's Liberation Army. So they have an interest in supplying them so they will, tie down the Sudanese army within the country so it doesn't create mischief and export its Islamic across its borders. That's one of the main reasons why Ethiopia and, the surrounding countries are supporting, the Sudanese rebels. At the same time, the Sudanese government is supporting the rebels in Uganda. There are some rebels in Uganda called the Lord's Resistance Army, being supplied by the Sudanese government to create problems for
Uganda.
Yeah, for Museveni in Uganda.
Well, now it seems with all of this crossfight and all of this support, basically all of these entangling alliances, it seems to me, what could be the possible solution to? I mean, how do you get out of the kind of dilemma that the country of Sudan has found itself in, as long as it has these two religious groups? I mean, what would be the solution?
I think the common sense solution would be for the government to roll back, the Sharia law.
And let's talk about that during this final segment, and we'll be back with you following this final segment. Yeah, okay. And the topic is Africa.